I think a lot of new and up and coming entrepreneurs are, because of our digital age, right? They're facing a life where there is nonstop. And you were doing that 20 years ago without the digital age. You were doing it without computers, without the iPhone, without any of that stuff. And nowadays, the entrepreneur is very different, right? Back then, if you were willing to do that, if you were willing to work 24/7, sleep on the floor for 2 hours, get back up, do it again, you superseded, right? You superseded your competition because your competition was home in time for dinner. Welcome back, everybody, to the Real Talk show and podcast. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Albert Montes, who has been in, we've been friends for 12, 13, 14 years, something like that?
I think it's about maybe 14,
It could be longer, right? Well, we've been friends for a long time. We've actually, I would say, honestly, watched each other's growth through entrepreneurship, through trials and tribulations, through ups and downs in business life and everything else, I think.
That's for sure.
We've seen a lot.
Yeah.
So the purpose of this podcast, purpose of the show, is to talk about an entrepreneurial journey, as well as talk about a very particular form of thought that I take to the word failure, right? Okay. So we'll begin with this, and so that you understand a little bit of the format. A few months ago, I removed the word failure from my vocabulary, right? And it wasn't because I imagined that I would never fail. It just, I found that the rest of the world, the rest of the coaching world, the rest of the interviews, everybody and their mother was saying, fail forward, fail forward, fail forward. And it grew so much that I started to hear younger entrepreneurs coming onto the scene, getting right into business without doing any research, figuring, well, if I fail, I'll just start again, right? It's okay. Right. And I come from a different background. I'm a military background. So in the military, there's no failure. There's no room for failure because the penalty is death. It's not, you don't get to start over. It's not a video game. You don't get 3 lives, And so I decided, how can I take, I guess, that concept and that particular thought process and apply it into business? What if you went to work every day understanding for a fact that you can't fail, right?
Right.
So based on that, tell me a little bit about your journey. Like, first of all, we're sitting in one of your businesses, which is your credit repair business, which is your longest lasting business so far, right? This is your oldest one.
20 years.
20 years in the business. Yeah. Tell me about your start here, because I remember having that conversation with you.
It's funny because right before the interview, I asked you, what are we going to talk about? And you said, you'll know what to say. So I hope I know what to say. But, first of all, thank you. And whenever I get asked about my expertise and anything to do with business or entrepreneurship, it's humbling because I don't see what I've accomplished or what I've been able to put together as anything extraordinary, really. You'll hear the same things, the same success principles and the qualities over and over. You have hard work, of course.
Hard work pays off. Everybody's always said it.
The old adage, the harder you work, the luckier you get. I think there was a lot of luck involved maybe in credit repair consultants in the beginning. We did talk about how some of the things kind of fell together in the beginning, but there was days or nights that I slept it wasn't in this location. I rented a 300 square foot executive office when I started. And to be honest, I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to make that rent payment when I first started. I said, what am I going to be able to make this payment? I needed a location, but I didn't have really an established business yet, and I didn't have the income.
Right.
It was being by myself, and I was taking on customers, and going back to some of the success principles, you have, taking care of your customers is paramount, anything, right? Customer service. So if I had a pile of customer files, and back then it wasn't all computerized, you actually had paper files, 20 years ago, I couldn't sleep. I needed to take care of those customers. So there was many nights that with a new daughter and my ex-wife, I wouldn't make it home because I'd be up all night, and when I couldn't take it when I couldn't keep working, I'd sleep on the rug on the floor for 2 hours until I wake back up and keep on going. So you just have, I think more than anything, I was very focused on what I needed and what I wanted to do.
I think a lot of new and up and coming entrepreneurs are, because of our digital age, right? They're facing a life where there is nonstop. And you were doing that 20 years ago without the digital age. You were doing it without computers, without the iPhone, without any of that stuff. And nowadays, the entrepreneur is very different, right? Back then, if you were willing to do that, if you were willing to work 24/7, sleep on the floor for 2 hours, get back up, do it again, you superseded, right? You superseded your competition because your competition was home in time for dinner, right?
But I think it goes back to having that focus. If you truly have that dedication, I mean, you're going to do whatever it takes. And it might not be 2 hours on the floor for you, but it's going to be you live, eat, and sleep whatever you're trying to create, because that's what's important to you. I mean, now I'm able to, let's say, enjoy the fruits of my labor a little bit more, and I'll go out and we'll have a good time in a couple, different things, or I'll take a vacation. But I remember in the beginning thinking and seeing people that were maybe going out to happy hour and going, what are these people doing? How can they be here with so much to do? I mean, no way, what a waste of time, what a waste of money, what a waste of resources. And that was where my thought process was. I mean, maybe that was an extreme, but maybe that's what it takes too. And going back to the iPhone and technology certainly allows us to be more productive. Nothing wrong with that.
It also extends your workday. But
at the end of the day, just things equal out. We still have only 8 hours, for work or whatever it is. We have 24 hours a day, regardless of whatever technology we have or whatever time. What we're willing to do in those 24 hours, that's what's going to make a difference.
Good. I'm glad that you said that, because you said two things that resonate. If you're going to open a business, you have to be willing to eat, breathe, and sleep that business.
Sure.
Like, you have to be extremely passionate about what you're doing, or it's going to fail. Period. End of story. Right? Yes. And then the other thing that you said is that you need to be heavily connected to it,
Sure.
And so I find that, in retrospect, like, if you think back, would you have taken a little more time off? Would you
No way. No, it wouldn't have worked. And the reason why, I mean, maybe there's a psychological component to it. I don't know, to say, well, you have to be willing to eat, live, and sleep. But I think the real reason is if you don't do it, someone else is.
Right.
If you don't live, eat, and sleep that business, someone else is going to eat, live, and sleep that.
So
They're gonna
it's funny, I heard today, you're familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Yeah.
So I heard today that he didn't take one vacation in his entire decade of in his 20s. Not one vacation.
Warren Buffett doesn't take vacations.
Right? So he was so focused on, building the wine library, which is what he got famous with. He was so focused on that he didn't take one vacation in his 20s. And he actually said, in retrospect, I wish I would have taken at least one a year, right? Because he feels like it would have been a reset.
To me, not in the beginning.
Right.
Not in the very beginning. I mean, there was I just couldn't. We had to grow the way we grew.
Right. So are there times in the last 20 years that this business faced failure and you superseded?
Of course. I think you're always going to face. You eliminate that word, so we're not,
right. So
you're always going to face.
Let me tell you what I replaced failure with. I replaced it with hiccups, right? Because
you replace it with learning.
If you have a hiccup, you can get past it, right? Failure is failure. You're like, you're dead. It's like saying I died, right?
Here's what happens. You're gonna face situations and you're gonna face, let's call them situations that might have some risk, maybe risk of losing whatever it is that you're trying to set out to do. In any time you're moving forward, it's gonna happen. But the more you do, and the more you do, and the more knowledge you have about what you're doing, the more you minimize the risk. And the example I like to give to others is, if I gave you $10,000 to invest in the stock market, and I gave Warren Buffett $10,000 to invest in the same stock market, the same $10,000, who's going to do better with that?
He's going to do better.
And it's not because
he breathes and sleeps the stock market.
That's for sure, for one thing. But his risk is less. And how is that? Because he understands the risk and he knows exactly. So knowledge reduces risk, basically.
Right.
So there's going to be failure only to the extent that you're going to inadvertently face things that you didn't know about, you didn't have knowledge about, and then oh God, I didn't plan for this. I didn't even know this was a possibility.
Right.
And then it goes back to what do you do with that, and how do you handle that situation? So it's not really failure if if you continue to move forward and you learn from it for sure.
Right.
One of our other businesses,
but then that's why I took away the word failure, because like you just said, it's not really failure if you're able to get past it, move forward, and learn from it and recover from it, right?
And think of the big picture. I mean, and look, entrepreneurship, honestly, I don't think is for everybody's temperament.
Oh, no, it isn't. It isn't. And it's funny, someone like you, maybe someone like me, I couldn't see myself without it.
No,
does that make sense?
No,
I can't see myself going back to a 9-to-5 job or going back to the military. Like sometimes I sit back and I reminisce and I'm like, man, you know what? My years in the Marine Corps were not that bad. It was It's pretty good life, right? And all I had was 11 more years. I'd had a retirement pension check for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, and I walked away with nothing. You know, half of that invested in nothing.
Yeah.
You know, but man, I can't replace the years that I did put in entrepreneurship and business and sales, learning constantly all the time how to get better in everything that we do. And so you can't replace that. And so what ends up happening is you get a taste for this and you do well at whatever it is that you do, and you could never turn back.
I think, and whether doing well, I mean, that's subjective, and I think most of us are going to think we're doing better at things than we are.
We believe in ourselves.
Sure, you have to believe in yourself, obviously, but you choose something that you want, like you said in the beginning, that you feel passionate about to some extent, that you feel that you can maintain direction and focus on, and regardless of where you're at when you start, you're going to get better. You're going to continue. You're going to learn. As long as you're willing to learn, of course. Well, you're going to learn one way or the other, but you're going to learn faster if you're willing to learn.
Right.
And focused. You'll continue to move forward.
All right. Is there anything that you would say? What's our timing like right now? How much time we got recorded? About 12 minutes. Is there anything you want to take some stories and photos and stuff like that? Is there anything that you would say to younger entrepreneurs coming on set right now that are about to face what you faced 20 years ago? Thinking about, and not even 20 years ago, a couple years ago, right? Because you just entered into a catering business. You also own a catering business, or you partnered in one. What are there other businesses you're involved in as well? Or?
Well, I've been involved in a lot of business. People look at the success. We've had a lot of success in Sergio's Catering. More than we probably imagined in the beginning. And it's funny because in the very beginning, there was times where I wanted to quit. There was times where and maybe this is one of the answers going to the younger entrepreneur, right? There were times where I said, this is not worth it for me. And I already had this business established and I already had some income. And to think about how much I was putting in. And I had two other partners, still have two other partners. We were all putting in. And one of my partners, by the way, slept on the floor in the mattress of the catering business. You think catering, well, that's just events and stuff. But no, right now we're doing close to 11,000 meals per day, every single day that we're delivering to schools and daycares and medical centers.
Like, I know you say you did.
No way. We started off with, I think, just under 500 meals. We got a contract with some medical centers. And the first day was, I think the first week, but the first day was chaotic. The first day was a freaking total mess. We had no idea what we were doing, how we were going to cook 500 meals, how are we going to portion these 500 meals, how are we going to deliver these 500 meals to these 8 different locations or whatever it was, how are we going to get there on time, how to keep them hot. We had no idea. And it was chaos.
But now it becomes rhythmic. Now it becomes a rhythm. Now you have a plan, but until you grow again,
you think, well, we knew what we needed to be. And by the way, we're not anywhere close to where we're going to be, where we're going with that business right now. But
then that's what I'm saying. Until you grow again, there's a rhythm.
Yes. Well, you started with 500 and you think, how are we ever, if we can't do 500, how are we going to get to 1,000? How are we going to get to 5,000? But then you develop that rhythm,
hit 1,000,
and then you move a little. Then you take another step. You develop that rhythm, and you take another step. I mean, going back to that original, how did I start credit repair consultants? That I was afraid to take on the responsibility of a lease to a small commercial executive office. When the office across this hall from me became open, which was a mortgage company, they left, and they were twice as big as the one I had. And I said, now is the time to jump on this. But I was afraid to do it because I was going to triple my rent. And I said, am I really ready to do this now? But we did it. We moved forward, and I ended up having almost the entire first floor of that building before I purchased here. Before I purchased here and came over here.
It's funny. I used to say you'll always figure out who a man is when he's stuck in a corner.
For sure.
You know? And so some people use, I did a post yesterday about motivation and what people use for motivation. And that the fear tactic happens to be one of the biggest motivators that entrepreneurs use.
Yeah.
It's that fear tactic. Like, when we opened up our office, we were 5 agents and we signed the lease for 3,000 square feet.
Right.
You know? And then
I know that. I remember the story.
The next door came available and it was another 3,000
square feet.
And we were at 20 agents, right? We had no business having 6,000 square feet. How many people told you were crazy? Everyone, right? Everyone. But then my justification, right? Because I'm a great salesperson, especially to myself,
yourself.
Right?
Right, of course.
And so my justification was, imagine if they do a CrossFit next door. And all we're gonna hear is boom, 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 boom through the wall.
I'm taking it now.
I was like, that's it. I'm taking it now. But we took it, right? Now we're 100 agents and growing.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's almost like, okay, fine, I'll go take that office, but now I have to figure out how to pay this rent. I have to figure out how to get this job done. I have to figure out how to push to the next level, how to take my business to the next level just to be able to cover the bills that we have.
And I'm the same way where I think maybe subconsciously I'll put myself in certain situations that I know are going to push me.
Right.
Because that fear, that alternative of not being able to live up to whatever you told yourself you were going to do.
Right.
Yeah, that definitely is a motivating factor. So.
All right. So tip for the youngsters coming on the game right now, or maybe even just anybody, any entrepreneur just stepping into the game right now, thinking, you know what, I've got a great idea, I've got a good business, I want to put it together, I'm going to make it happen, I'm going to do this. Day one, they're in, they're like pumped, ready to go. You remember day one, like, yeah, And
it wasn't always, but yes, it was like a steady.
Wait, well, I'm talking about number one, like day number one. You walk in the office, you're like, yes, I'm gonna do this. Yeah. And then like day 15, you're like, holy shit, right? So what advice would you give them? And you were mentioning like, don't quit. That's one, right?
Don't quit for sure.
I tell my wife all the time, let's just close everything down and move to Georgia. We're in Atlanta,
Sell everything and move to Ibiza or something. Right? Yeah. Those thoughts have crossed my mind sometimes. My kids keep me here, I think. But good. I don't know that it's one thing. I mean, it's so many different things that got to come together. But man, just believe in yourself. And sometimes that's easier to say. You hear that all the time. Easier said than done, yeah. Sure, you hear that all the time. I mean, I have stories of how I wanted to quit the other business. And you asked me, is this my other 2 businesses? I mean, I have had I've been involved in a dental lab. I've been involved in a car wash business. I've been involved in a gas station. I've been involved in so many businesses that I don't even remember all of them right now. They're not around anymore. Call center. The call center. Remember that one? Oh, geez, yeah. That was I took a hit there, but but it was a gigantic learning experience. So people only see the ones that have succeeded and say, look how well you're doing with these, but there's everything in the background that has all contributed to the success. Right. So you figure out what you want to do, believe in yourself. You realize, look, there's nothing, to me, there's nothing that anybody else has accomplished that I can't accomplish. I mean, there's nobody out there they're not Martians. They're not, any different than you and I. Right. We're all born with a clean slate, and whatever people that you look up to and have accomplished great things, they haven't done anything that we can't do. So just, have belief. Get yourself around people that are like-minded. For sure. Get rid of negative.
That's a real big one.
Get rid of negativity around you. Right. And sometimes it's harder with people that you love or care about, but you got to get rid of negativity around you.
The funny part is that, we talk about this all the time in our brokerage, and we talk about how the negative people in your life are typically the closest people to you. And
they mean well.
They mean well, but they don't get it.
But because they're the close people in your life, what you say is going to affect you more than maybe some stranger.
Right.
If some stranger tells you you're not going to make it, maybe that motivates you, or maybe you say, well, whatever, forget that person.
Yeah.
But someone that you care about is telling you, is doubting you or being negative about what it is what you're dreaming about doing or trying to accomplish. That's going to have a bigger effect on you, and you need to get rid of that. So,
all right. So get rid of negativity. Don't quit.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself.
For sure.
Those are great top 3.
Okay, we'll leave it at 3 then. There's more. Call me if you want more. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thanks for doing this with me.
No
we're about 7-8 minutes over, but it's all good. I think this is a great interview. People are really going to pay attention, and I appreciate you doing this with me, man.
For sure, I appreciate you asking me to do it.
All right, awesome.